Chase Utley got a lot of love last night. I know Billy's not a fan of that. I said it was fine. Matt Gelb writes for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Phillies beat writer. Matt, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
All right.
So let me ask you, Matt. Billy's question is, did Chase Utley get too much love last night? Do you think so?
Well, I don't know. I don't really consider myself in the business of telling people how they should react or how they should feel about a given thing. But, I'll say this. I think it was almost unprecedented. A lot of people were trying to remember in the press box the last time they had seen something like that for a visiting player. And obviously there have been instances of a visiting player hitting a home run here and getting a standing ovation for that, like Jim Thome or Cal Ripken or things of that nature. And actually a reader emailed me this morning. So I remember in 1983, I was at the Vet. It was Johnny Bench's retirement tour. He was playing for the Reds end of his career, and he hit a pinch hit home run against the Phillies to beat them, and people gave him a standing ovation. It came out for a curtain call, and that, we think, might have been the last time it actually happened. So it's very unusual. But, I think it was there were 28,000 people here last night, and a lot of them came to see Chase Utley. And what they saw was pretty incredible, whether you're a Phillies fan or not, or just an Utley fan. But the reaction to it was quite unusual. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again.
Matt, talk a little bit more about the environment last night, because you had Chase Utley, his first game back in Philadelphia. He hit 2 home runs last night, one of them being a grand slam. And then Ryan Howard also hit a home run last night. So talk about, it seemed like watching on TV, there was a lot of energy in the building last night.
There was energy. I actually thought there was going to be a bigger crowd. They only announced a paid attendance of about 28,100. And I think I looked that up, and it was like the 15th largest crowd they've had here this year. I was actually kind of expecting a bigger crowd, and maybe it was the heat that sort of drove some people away. But it did have a little bit of buzz. I would say that there was probably more energy in this ballpark than there's been for much of the games this season, maybe if not all. And that was neat. That was the neat thing about it. You kind of sort of felt like you were back in like 09 or 08 or something, where with every at bat by Utley or Howard, you're expecting something big to happen. And in reality, the Dodgers are a contending team. That game was a lot more important to them. But for people around here, this one was circled. They wanted to see Chase back here, and he did a lot here.
Looking back on Chase Utley's career, I know a lot of people bring up different elements of his career, but to me, last night embodied the reason why the Philadelphia fan loves this guy, because to me, Chase Utley is a guy who embodies what the Philly fan wants. They want a guy who's going to give his blood, sweat, and tears in his guts. They want a guy who's going to come up clutch in the moments. They want a guy who's going to give his all day in and day out. And then in a big night like last night, he had the press conference before, the press conference after. Obviously, he had distractions floating all around him, and he still hits 2 home runs. So to me, didn't last night just encapsulate what the Philly fan loves so much about Chase?
Yeah, I actually think, and I tried to write this, I don't know if it came through my writing sometimes, my brain doesn't really connect with my fingers when I'm typing, but, he had such an uncompromising style, right? Phillies fans liked him because, he played, he took every pitch and every play, fairly seriously, maybe more than the average player, probably more than the average player. And I think his greatest act might have been, getting the fans at the stadium in Philadelphia, notoriously, let's harsh, let's say it. But high standards here. And he got the fans of Philadelphia to cheer him as an opposing player after he hit a home run against them. And I think that might be Chase's greatest act. His style was something that Phillies fans latched on to, and you could just see by the reaction there was last night.
You wrote an article for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it talks about the fact that, Vince Velasquez, the guy who was pitching last night, he actually had 10 strikeouts, but you kind of get forgotten about that because at the end of the night, he gave up all the runs he did. He gave up the home run to Chase Utley. So talk a little bit about the fact that it seems like Velasquez at this point is just running out of steam at this point in the season.
I don't know that he's running out of steam, actually. I think we saw some of his better stuff last night. He was throwing 97 in the 5th inning there. The ball that Grandal hit for the 3rd home run off of Velasquez was a fastball down and away, 97. And Grandal's a really good hitter, and he poked it out to left center for a 2-run shot. these weren't his two best starts, the last two against the Dodgers. He's also facing one of the better lineups in baseball. I mean, you look up and down their lineup. I mean, like Howie Kendrick is batting ace for the Dodgers, and it's not Howie Kendrick from 5 years ago, but Howie Kendrick is a solid hitter with a really tough approach against him. And you're going up and down this lineup, it's tough. And I think Velasquez isn't going to make it through the whole season. They're very cognizant of his innings limit. But I think you've seen a guy who he's well documented. I mean, he's run into too many deep counts. He's had electric stuff at times, but sometimes not able to put away hitters, and that's why he's not pitching deep in the games. And really, for him to take the next step, you want to see him start getting 7-inning games and getting his pitch count lower, and maybe not always going for a strikeout. And that's something I think that is in the back of his head. He's not necessarily a ground ball pitcher. He's not looking for outs in play. He's trying to strike everybody out, and that's an approach that will catch up to you eventually.
Do you think it also could be maybe with Velasquez that maybe teams are maybe they're seeing him more, and because the Dodgers have seen him twice now, the teams are getting to the point where they look at him and they say, we've seen him so many times, we know what he's doing, so the second and third time through the lineups, they're much more ready for what he's throwing at them?
It could be. I think actually he had a better approach against the Dodgers the second time around as opposed to last week, where he was just ambushed early on. I mean, first, second inning. I mean, he's leaving fastballs up. They're hitting them. He's not mixing his pitches. But last night, I think you saw a better mix. I think he fooled more guys. For the first 4 innings, he threw like 63 pitches, scoreless innings, 7 strikeouts. I mean, he was right on track. Now, the hitters made the adjustments the next time through in the 5th and 6th innings, and Velasquez didn't. And that's a young pitcher. He's 24. I mean, he's got to make those adjustments with the hitters, and that's why they're running him out there every 5th day to see if he can learn from it.
You mentioned in the article, Matt, about his innings. He's pitched 113 innings. That's the most that he's thrown as a professional since he was at single A ball and A-plus ball back in 2013, where he threw 124.23 innings. So I want to ask you, do you think that there is a innings limit per se, like a number they're looking at, or do you think there's going to go much by feel here, where the Phillies say, you look like you're getting tired, how do you feel? And they'll kind of talk about it, and that's when they'll wind him down.
I think they have a number in mind, but I also think that's really dependent just on how things go. I mean, they'll use their eyes. I mean, if they see a guy whose velocity maybe dips a little bit, or if they see a guy who's throwing a lot of high-stress innings with runners on base, not every inning is equal. I mean, you can have one inning that's a 9-pitch inning. It's very simple, no stress. And you can have an inning where there's 29 pitches, and you pitch the whole inning with runners on base, and there's a lot more stress on the arm in those innings. So they'll have a number in mind. They'll also use a feel sort of thing with it. They'll use their eyes. And again, he won't make it through the rest of the year. I mean, he said last night probably 3 or 4 more starts. I mean, that's a rough guess from Velasquez. I mean, that could be right. I mean, I don't think he's going to pitch very deep into September, so clock is kind of ticking on him.
We're talking with Matt Gelb. You can follow him over on Twitter at Matt Gelb. Gelb spelled G-E-L-B. Let's transition over to Ryan Howard. Ryan Howard has been ridiculously hot since after the All-Star break came and ended. Is he considered to be possibly a guy that you think could maybe be a waiver trade?
No. Simple as that. No. I mean, they've tried to trade him for a long time now, and in those instances, they've offered to pay quite a bit of money remaining on his contract, and there really hasn't been any bites. There weren't any bites on him at the August 1st deadline, the non-waiver deadline, and simple answer is no. I mean, I really don't. He's had a great season, but I don't think there's teams that see a fit really, and he wants to play next year, and then I don't know that any team can be giving him a guaranteed deal, so I'll be interested to see if he really does want to play, and if he would take a non-roster invite sort of thing to spring training with somebody. So we'll see.
Hey Matt, what do you attribute Ryan Howard's turnaround? I mean, obviously they're talking a little bit about his batting stance, but what has he said to you guys down at the ballpark?
Oh, he's not facing lefties. I mean, I think they've found a really good role for him, and it did take him a little bit to get used to the sort of part-time role. And look, his at-bats against lefties have been basically eliminated, and I think that's why you see better numbers, is because he's only facing right-handed pitchers, and he's got a feel for playing 2 to 3 times a week, and that's a big-time adjustment for someone who's used to playing 6 or 7 times a week. So I think he feels a little better. And look, this game is all about confidence. I mean, when he was in that awful streak, he's going up there thinking, I need to get a hit here. I need to get a hit here. I need to get a hit. I'm hitting 140. And now, he's a little more relaxed. And it's amazing how much we can analyze everything and look at the numbers. And usually it's about confidence. It's a strange game, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ups and downs in baseball. I mean, it's a game of streaks. His confidence, though, obviously, he just looks so much more confident. And you don't think that there's somebody out there that might need to pick up a Ryan Howard down the stretch in the American League?
I don't. I really don't. I mean, I just don't see it. Unless there's an injury somewhere and somebody needs a platoon DH. But there's just not that many of those jobs around. Those contending teams, a lot of them have been using the designated hitter spot to rotate their position players in to give them sort of a quasi, day off where they're just hitting. So teams are using the DH differently than they used to. And unless there's an injury, I don't see it. I don't see it fit. I think he'll finish here the rest of the season, and they'll become a free agent then.
Transitioning back to the pitching staff, Jeremy Hellickson looks like he's not going to be able to get his start until Saturday. We got some good news that Morgan is going to be able to start his next game. He won't go the DL. How important it is for the Phillies right now, Matt, to make sure that Hellickson and Morgan can still pitch and not have to bring up any more guys for September?
Well, I think the bigger importance right now is that Hellickson is pitching every fifth day, basically, because the Phillies have taken a fairly large risk on him, and that's that he'll decline a potential qualifying offer after the season, which would be about almost $17 million. And for him to do that, he would have to think that there's a team out there that's willing to give him a pretty strong multi-year deal. And if he finishes the season on the DL or not pitching, that might hurt his chances there. So the Phillies need him to be healthy, and they need him to be taking the ball every fifth day and pitching relatively effective. And that would make their bet sort of pay off. But they need him to pitch. That's the biggest concern for them.
What about Adam Morgan? It looks like that he's going to be fine after getting that line drive off his arm, correct?
Yeah, I mean, right now Morgan's there to just kind of soak up innings for them. I mean, let's be real. I mean, Nola and Eflin, they'd rather have those guys in the rotation right now. And some of these young pitchers are going to be shut down, and they need to get through the rest of the season somehow. And that's kind of, they knew this going into the season. They knew that they were going to need some arms. I mean, you might see like David Buchanan. You might see Phil Klein, a guy who came up for a spot start. They're going to need guys to start games in September. This is what the rebuilding is about. So it's going to take a few more arms to get through the rest of the season.
Speaking of Phil Klein, ever since the Phillies sent him down, he's actually been pitching pretty well back down there.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He was a waiver claim from Texas. He's always had really big strikeout numbers in the minors, even in the majors. I know the major league numbers with Texas weren't great, but he's also always been a reliever, and they decided to make him a starter for now because there was a need, and he's responded really well. I mean, he's got back-to-back double-digit strikeout games at AAA, and he's another guy. I mean, they wanted to. It's sort of been churning guys through the waiver wire to get different looks at people, and that's what this is for. To see maybe if they hit on one of these guys, then they can be part of the team next year.
Yeah, Klein's got 46 strikeouts and 38 innings down at Lehigh Valley. One more question, Matt, for you. We'll let you go, and appreciate you joining us here on a Wednesday. Going through the rest of this homestand, is there any things that you expect to see any more guys potentially called up or sent down? Do you think right now the Phillies are going to stay put with the lineup they got at the major league level?
No, I think they'll make a few bullpen moves, perhaps. I mean, maybe even today. Their left-handed release situation is not great. Elvis Araujo was tagged again last night. They really haven't been able to find anyone to get lefties out in the bullpen this year. And, for a rebuilding team, that's not really the highest of priorities. That's something you live with for now. But, they could turn more guys in and out. I think there's some guys who are pitching well at AAA. They've had another recent waiver claim, Pat Schuster, lefty from Oakland. He could be here eventually. So, you're going to see guys turning through, but you won't really see maybe any of the prospects perhaps until, September 1st, which is a real possibility. You might see the Nick Williamses and Roman Quinns and maybe even Jorge Alfaro in September.
We were talking with Matt Gelb. He's a Phillies beat writer. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Gelb. Gelb spelled Gelb. Matt, appreciate the time today.
Thank you, guys. Take care.